So on Twitter, and I think on other websites as well, it's now being reported that Anthony Joshua is reaching out to Ismael Salas about potentially training him for his upcoming fight with Andy Ruiz. I know it's not been formally announced, but let's assume the rematch happens. There is an article here on Twitter, and it's quoting Hustle Boss TV, I believe it's what it's called, and it basically says Angel Memo Herrera, I think is how you pronounce it, claims Anthony Joshua has reached out to Ismael Sala about potentially training him for the Andy Ruiz rematch. He said it isn't coming off because Sala wants AJ to train in the US, but AJ hoped they'd go to the UK. Okay, so that's what they're reporting. So Anthony Joshua reaching out to Ismael Sala. Ismael Sala, you may remember, he trained Joe Joyce and David Haye. He only trained David Haye for the Bellew rematch, and some people were critical of him in that fight because David Haye done worse, a lot worse, in the rematch than he did in the first fight. In the first fight, he was trained by Shane McGuigan, of course. So Ismael Sala, he was obviously training with Joe Joyce, and who else was it? Jorge Linares. He trained for a while, so it's a good trainer, Ismael Salas. It comes a kind of bit of a surprise because we've heard a lot of people saying that Andy Joshua needs to get rid of Robert McCracken, and we've kind of heard whispers about that here and there, but we've also heard them rumours kind of shut down by various people saying, no, AJ is staying with McCracken, he's happy, that's what he wants. So it's kind of up in the air now at the minute what's going to be happening. I know, as it says in that article I read you just there, that AJ wanted Salah to train in the UK, but Salah wants it done in the US. I think that if Anthony Joshua was ever to reach out to an American trainer, I think most of them would probably want Anthony Joshua out in the US, and I think it might even do Anthony Joshua good to go out and train in the US. I know he was out in the US for the Andy Ruiz camp, and obviously that didn't go as planned. But you know, I think the US trainers would suit Anthony Joshua better than the UK trainers. Not that they're necessarily better in terms of just better trainers. I think just what they could teach Anthony Joshua. I think somebody like a John David Jackson, a Freddie Roach, a trainer who's not talked about enough, in my opinion, Ronnie Shields. I think they'd be good fits for Anthony Joshua, personally. I don't think Rob McCracken is necessarily the right trainer for Anthony Joshua. I don't think he's helped him improve in terms of technically. And I think that Anthony Joshua, staying with him, he's just going to stay stagnant. He's going to stay stagnant in his development training with Rob McCracken. A fresh fit with someone like a Freddie Roach, John David Jackson, Ronnie Shields. Ronnie Shields be, I think, a decent enough fit for Anthony Joshua, believe it or not. And I think a fresh change like that, changing the corner, would be a good thing. Ismael Sala is a good trainer. As I said, I know people were kind of critical of him with the David Haye situation because, you know, he definitely did do worse in the Bellew rematch than he did under Shane McGuigan. But David Haye was a spent force at that stage anyway. So I don't think it mattered who was in his corner, to be honest with you. David Haye was not the David Haye of old. So interesting scenario, interesting development here. So Anthony Joshua, if these rumours are to be believed, it looks like he could be looking elsewhere from Rob McCracken. And personally, I think that's welcome. That'd be a welcome change for Anthony Joshua. I think if he wants to give himself the best chance of winning, well, I tell a lie actually. I think that if Anthony Joshua wants to give himself the best chance of having a longer career, more success, he would need a new trainer, but not necessarily for the Andy Ruiz rematch. I think maybe stick with McCracken for the rematch because he needs to, if he's going to start with a new trainer, he's going to be starting kind of his development more or less from the scratch, right? He wants to be kind of building back up to that level under that new trainer, learning the ropes with that new trainer, whoever it may be. But if you're going straight into a rematch with a guy who just beat the crap out of you in the last fight, and this is your first fight with a new trainer, I wouldn't recommend it in the Andy Ruiz rematch. So maybe I would recommend he stay with McCracken just for this rematch. Win or lose, get rid of him after that, and then decide on a new trainer. But the problem is, if you win, you're back in the deep end. It's a catch-22 for Anthony Joshua, but to be honest with you, I don't think you should take the Andy Ruiz rematch. Personally, I don't. I think that Anthony Joshua, he took a beating in that fight. I do think Joshua is mentally strong, but I I don't know if he'll be all there mentally after that beating, after what happened in that fight. And as I say, we hear these stories about Anthony Joshua and sparring. Sparring is where the years are taken off your career, not necessarily the fight, because you're going to spar a lot more rounds than you're ever going to fight. And if he is getting beaten up in sparring and he is getting dropped in sparring, how many years realistically does AJ have in the sport of boxing? I beg that question. So I would, in an ideal scenario, I would love to see AJ with a new trainer, probably an American trainer like a Freddie Roach or John David Jackson, and just start rebuilding. You know, maybe take a fight with a Najed Kabayel. Seriously, do it on Standard Sky, because that'll get the fans tuning in, because they'll be seeing Anthony Joshua on Standard Sky. Do it on Standard Sky and just build yourself back up. You know, it won't take long. People say he could be frozen out. He's ranked number 3 with the WBC already. He's not going to get frozen out. He'll eventually get made mandatory in a year or so, at most 2 max. So I don't see why this has to be rushed, honestly. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on this. Leave yours down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you after.